Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly stoked to have you with us today. Look, we are diving into a deeply fascinating concept that literally spans across ancient spiritual traditions, modern neuroscience, and even quantum physics. It's called cosmic resonance, and it's all about how to stay in frequency. We have an absolutely incredible lineup of source materials to unpack today, pulling from the esoteric wisdom of Kashmir Shaivism and ancient Sufi poetry, all the way to the modern neurological science of belief and manifestation.
So, let me ask you something. What if everything you've been taught about hard work, hustle, and endlessly chasing success is actually pushing your goals further away? Our sources today completely challenge the classical, linear model of reality. That old idea that progress only comes from aggressive exertion, sheer willpower, and just constant friction. Instead, they're proposing a massive paradigm shift. What if reality functions more like a highly intelligent, responsive energy field? And what if achieving your goals is way less about outward struggle and so much more about your internal alignment? All right, let's jump right into section 1, the myth of hustle. Now, in traditional business advice, we are constantly always told to hustle and grind, right? But the thing is, this often just acts as a mechanism of friction. It leads straight to burnout rather than true alignment, and it fundamentally misunderstands how reality is actually created. There is a stark divide here. On one side, you have traditional biz truths, which the Good Vibe blog hilariously refers to as muggle-made constraints. This is all about forcing outcomes, obsessing over the competition, and basically working yourself into absolute exhaustion. But on the flip side, you have the conscious creator. They rely on inner guidance, inspired action, and becoming a true vibrational match to what they desire. They know that these so-called business rules, they are entirely optional if they don't actually bring you joy. In fact, I absolutely love how the Good Vibe blog puts this. They say, it isn't from jumping through muggle-made hoops. It's from our reality-creating skills. Jumping through traditional hoops is totally optional once you learn how to become a vibrational match to your desires. The universe doesn't reward burnout, guys. It rewards balance. You really don't have to chase customers or opportunities if your internal energy is already aligned to receive them. Moving on to section 2, the universe as a radio. So how exactly does this energy alignment work in practice? Well, if we step away from economics for a second and look at physics and ancient wisdom, we see that the universe essentially functions like a constantly broadcasting radio. It is sending out signals all the time, and what you actually receive depends entirely on where your personal dial is tuned. To really get this, we have to look at the ancient doctrine of Nada Brahma, which literally translates to the idea that the entire universe originates from vibration. Similarly, Kashmir Shaivism speaks of something called spanda, which is this subtle pulse of awareness animating everything from a tiny movement all the way to the vastness of space. In fact, research on traditional percussion in Northeast India notes that sound, breath, and rhythm have long been understood not just as musical elements, but as actual movements of consciousness itself. You are, quite literally, a walking transmitter. And grounding this ancient mysticism directly into quantum principles and neuroscience reveals something truly mind-blowing. When you're operating from a place of desperation, anxiety, or scarcity, basically trying to force a result, your brain creates these chaotic high beta waves. This causes what's known as destructive interference, which literally cancels out the opportunities you're trying so hard to attract. But when you engage in internal recalibration, think stillness, meditation, you shift into coherent alpha and theta waves. This creates constructive interference, where your energy maximizes and just magnetically draws opportunities right to you. Simply put, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Which brings us to section 3, the mystical marketplace. Now, this mystical marketplace where all this cosmic resonance plays out has a pretty wild dual nature. On one hand, it's this profound metaphysical reality. One of our YouTube sources describes this esoteric concept called Jessica's Market, where items like a copper bowl literally wait for years and only begin to hum and reveal themselves when a buyer with the exact right frequency arrives. Crazy, right? But on the other hand, academic sources like Sophia Rose Arjana's work point out how highly commodified this marketplace is today. I mean, we see it in the tourism industry, selling spiritual experiences in Bali, or in translations of Rumi that completely strip away his Islamic context to appeal to Western consumers. We even see it in pop culture, where Star Wars Jedi basically serve as a mythical mashup of Buddhism. So, the crucial takeaway here is this. If you look past all the modern commercialization, the esoteric truth of the mystical marketplace absolutely remains. The universe operates on the physics of resonance, not the economics of scarcity. Nothing is being maliciously withheld from you. The universe is not a vending machine, it is a field of consciousness. The opportunities, the books, the teachers, they are already there, just waiting for your awareness to expand enough to finally see them. Let's dive into Section 4, Entering the Forge. Now, reaching that level of awareness, it requires serious internal work. It's not just about thinking happy thoughts all day. To match the universe's highest frequencies, we actually have to shed our egoic resistance and willingly step into the intense heat of self-reflection. We have to ask a really pivotal question. How is a leader formed in the crucible of change? Asking this bridges the gap between those abstract quantum energy concepts and the gritty, deeply challenging spiritual work required for real personal transformation. In The Metallurgy of Leadership, author Todd Bolsinger uses this great metaphor of an anvil and a hot forge. He says tempering a leader is a process of reflection, relationships, and practices that form resilience to continue leading when the resistance is highest. The source highlights incredible historical figures like Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. In fact, it notes how Tutu spent 3 hours a day in deep, listening prayer. That is the heat of the forge, right there. It is the vulnerable self-reflection required to let go of our old identities and build tempered resilience. And stepping into that forge means fully embracing emptiness. In Jalaluddin Rumi's 13th century poem, Craftsmanship and Emptiness, he beautifully urges us not to fear the void. Rumi teaches that emptiness is not some terrifying scorpion pit of fear, but rather a beautiful expanse for true craftsmanship. To really do this work, we have to abandon the attachments and the ego-driven fears that blind us. We have to allow the emptiness to become the very space where our greatest potential is crafted.
Okay, Section 5, the triad of manifestation.
So once we've done all that heavy internal clearing, how do we actively tune our frequency to a state of complete internal coherence? Well, the triad of manifestation requires 3 things to vibrate in perfect harmony. Step 1 is thought, which gives you clarity and direction. Step 2 is emotion. This is the actual power and frequency fueling your signal. And step 3 is action, which is the physical embodiment of the energy. Listen, if you think positive thoughts but act out of fear or desperation, your frequency is totally distorted. All 3 absolutely must align. And again, this isn't just magic, it's biology. Dr. Amit Kumar's research points directly to the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of this as your brain's internal GPS. If your frequency is set to, say, there are no good jobs out there, or I'm just not good enough, your RAS literally filters out opportunities so you won't even see them. But when you shift your belief frequency to, I am aligned and ready, your RAS completely changes your perception. It starts unveiling synchronicities that were previously completely invisible to you.
We also see this play out in social interactions through mirror neurons. Confidence is not just a personality trait, guys. It is a literal neurochemical state. When you walk into a room, let's say for a big job interview, and you are just radiating certainty and calm, the mirror neurons in the people across the table unconsciously synchronize to your frequency. Their nervous systems actually relax. You magnetically attract trust and rapport before a single word is even spoken.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the art of active receiving. So, how do we make all of this a daily reality? To maintain this frequency, you have to practice what our sources call energetic hygiene. This starts with a simple 5-minute morning grounding meditation to stabilize your energy, followed by gratitude frequency journaling to shift your brain out of lack and into abundance. But honestly, tuning your dial is often way more about subtraction, meaning releasing old beliefs and fears, than it is about adding more hustle. Finally, there's the super powerful practice of acknowledgement. This is literally signaling to the field of consciousness by stating, I am ready to receive what seeks me now. Ultimately, all of this culminates in the spiritual concept of Ishwar Pranidhana, which basically means surrendering to divine intelligence. It is the ultimate flow state. Look, true manifestation requires surrendering the struggle. You must work less from a place of pressure and more from presence. You have to let divine timing cooperate with your alignment, trusting that when you finally stop forcing things, life starts flowing. Which leaves us with one final, vital question to chew on today. Where in your life are you forcing instead of flowing? And how can you finally surrender the struggle? Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your stress, it responds to your state. It is time to stop endlessly chasing success and instead do the inner work to become completely magnetic to it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I hope this sparks some serious curiosity for you. Until next time, stay in frequency.